Hey, Teddy K here for MobileSyrup, and in this video review, we're going to take a look at Android Auto, Google's automotive infotainment platform. Now, I've had 4 months with it, and I'm going to give you the lowdown on how it performs so far. Having tested this with no less than 12 different Android smartphones, I got a really good sense of the platform's merits and how far it still needs to go to continue maturing. I described the setup process in more detail in my written review, but needless to say, it requires a number of steps and all of the latest updates, including for Google Play services. The Android Auto interface has a familiar look that makes it feel fairly intuitive, mainly because it's an offshoot of Google Now's card-based layout on Android devices. These are, of course, contextual and are viewable by swiping up or down. They just can't be removed by swiping them to the right like you can on a phone. Underneath is a row of soft keys that act as shortcuts to the main functions you would be looking for: Maps, Phone, Home, Audio, and back to the menu of the aftermarket head unit, which in this case is Pioneer's AVIC 8100NEX, or an automaker's infotainment system. The cards double as shortcuts to specific features or commands within an app, like responding to a missed call or restarting a navigation map. Not surprisingly, Android Auto uses a north-south swiping approach, but makes really good use of the capacitive touchscreens required to run it by including pinch to zoom in Google Maps. App integration and audio are key to Android Auto, and I'll start with Spotify. The menu layout is simple and clean, though it doesn't integrate recent tracks nor show songs that you saved, only albums. Scrolling through lists is also limited by default, cutting you off at about 13 before a pop-up tells you why. Naturally, this is done for safety reasons, as the pop-up indicates, but it applies to every type of list, so if you have a lot of playlists, chances are you're not going to be able to see any of them. Same goes for a playlist that has a lot of songs. If you keep going down, eventually you get stifled. You can't go any lower, unless you choose the last track on the list, which then pushes the list further down. You can handle Spotify pretty easily with steering wheel controls or hard buttons on a head unit or in the infotainment system of the vehicle itself, but there are some soft keys too, which is shuffle, you got loop, you got like, you got some basics here that are Spotify specific that you can touch on the screen. Google Play Music looks and feels pretty similar too, and actually benefits from the recent integration of songs. So songs of playlists that you would already have had will actually work here on Google Play Music too, and I can say with some better audio quality to boot. Now, the layout is pretty much the same. The soft keys, of course, are going to be different because it is a different app, but the basic menu layout and how you get from one point to another is not that different, regardless of whether you're using Spotify or Google Play Music. TuneIn Radio is not that different, although it can take some time to load. I actually shortened the span there for this video. So here are the basics. This is the basic interface. This is the shortcut to get to what you need to go. Now, there are some oddities that do happen here. So, for example, here I'm going to select NHL and see all. Great. But there's nothing there. Now, this is strange because there are actually stations that I could listen to that are NHL related that I could access from the app, but I can't seem to get them on here. So there are other basic radio stations. I mean, there's so many radio stations, of course, on this app, and they are accessible through here, and of course you can save your favorites. So all those things, all these elements that you would normally be used to with TuneIn are available here too.
Show. Find out who's in the lineup, who's on the injury list, who's watching from their press box, and why.
Well, first and foremost, I will apologize for the audio quality here. I'm using a TomTom Bandit that's mounted on my dashboard here. But this is one way to sort of demonstrate how Android Auto works. Driving with a system like Android Auto is supposed to make it a lot easier to use an Android device in the car. And having tried it with no less than a dozen different devices, I can attest to the fact that it is pretty uniform throughout, so that is a good job on Google's part in making sure that the experience is not that different. You do get a little more from Marshmallow than you will from Lollipop. Of course, Lollipop is the lowest, that's actually the starting point. If your Android phone doesn't run on Lollipop, then you can't use an Android Auto at all. Unlike with CarPlay, if I actually try to do anything with the phone, if I actually pick up the phone and I try to go to the home screen or I try to go to a different app, I can't do that. It won't let me do it. So that's one big factor actually, because with CarPlay you can actually go out of the main CarPlay screen and actually fiddle around and actually play music from different music sources. One of the things that kind of bugs me about Android Auto is that I don't have an easy way to get to some things. So I don't have any steering wheel controls in this car. And as a result, I can't necessarily get access to the voice controls to Google Now like I normally would. If I just pressed a button on the steering wheel controls, I'd be fine, but it doesn't work like that here. Now, I do have the option, though, of course, of touching it on the screen. Play music from TuneIn.
Here you go. Close early at 5 p.m. on New Year's Eve.
Send a text message to Ted K.
What's the message?
What do you think of Android Auto?
Here's your text to Ted K. What do you think of Android Auto? Do you want to send it or change it?
Yes, send it. Yes, send it.
Sending message.
All right. So it's pretty simple. It's actually very easy to use. In fact, I actually find that Google Now is actually a little bit more precise in some of that respect, actually, than Siri is with CarPlay. What you see with Google Maps on the app when you're using it on the phone, and then what you have in Android Auto, it's pretty bare bones in a lot of ways. But again, I could say, what is the traffic situation right now based on my location?
Not sure how to help with that.
See? So there we go. So there's a lot of things that it can't do. It can't necessarily tell me what the best route is. So if I say, what is the best route to get to the CN Tower?
Not sure how to help with what is the best route to get to the CN Tower. For tips on what you can say, turn on the microphone and say, help.
There you go. What can I say?
Here are a few examples of what you can ask Google to do for you. After opening the microphone, you can say, call Mom, text Charlie, or directions to a gas station.
Android Auto is expected to be in a lot more vehicles in 2016, which should make future updates very interesting. But app support is still very limited, and needs to grow to really improve how effective and effortless the whole experience can be. Still, it's a good start, and far better than anything the automakers can offer, now and probably into the future. For MobileSyrup, I'm Ted Kritsonis. Thanks for watching.